everybody. Welcome to the Daily Digital Download for Monday, May 11th. Well, we're back to the regular scheduled grind. Exciting times in crypto land. Not. Let me just make a quick little copy pasta here of my link for Daily Digital Download, Monday, May 11th. Let me just add this real quick to the old TL, and then we'll get into it. I think we're in a period of, I don't want to say malaise. I don't want to say a lull. We're in a quiet time, which is nice, honestly. It's really nice to be in a quiet time, especially during security season when people are getting hacked. AI is just going after so many of our assets. It's absolutely ridiculous. Let me just add this here real quick. All right. Anyways, well, another week into crypto. We're well into Q2 at this point, about almost halfway through, which is nice because Q1 this year was pretty rough for prices and sentiment. Last Friday, we had Louis Ivan from the Rider Hardware Wallet on the Crypto Coffee and Blockchain Beer, where we spoke about building in 2026, why we're still here building crypto products, and who the Rider team is building for. So yeah, look, honestly, we've had 2 weeks almost where there haven't been any major hacks, knock on wood. Hopefully we don't see very many more. That being said, there's still some things to be positive about in the blockchain space moving forward. Let's start with the Clarity Act. The Senate Banking Committee has set a date to mark up the Clarity Act, which is the market structure bill here in the US. This bill is super important because it basically tells us what regulatory bodies will look after which types of tokens, how companies can launch here in the US, and really just more broadly create laws for token projects moving forward. I've beaten the table about this. Laws are good because they remain in place for administration shifts. A perfect example is just the past 3 years that we've lived through. The last year of the Biden administration was very hostile towards the crypto industry, and the first year and a half of the Trump admin has been very pro-crypto. It's great to be in a pro-crypto administration right now, but when the new administration comes in, if they don't like crypto, then we want to have laws in place where they can't snuff out our industry with something like Operation Choke Point 2.0, which systematically strangled the ability for crypto companies to have bank accounts, to be able to access banking infrastructure, to be able to access traditional financial infrastructure. When you can't access these networks, you get suffocated from being able to participate. And that's what the previous administration was trying to do, which is why the Clarity Act is a good thing, because if we have laws on the books, then administrations can't do this. So this bill is set to regulate the industry comprehensively at a federal level for the first time. And this is the second time this year that the Senate Banking Committee is attempting to hold a markup, after the first one was canceled in January, when Coinbase Exchange CEO Brian Armstrong had his strong words saying that he couldn't support the bill, and that delayed everything. Now, what does the process look like for the Clarity Act to get put through? The Senate Banking Committee needs to advance its version and then reconcile that version with the other version of the Senate Agriculture Committee, which was advanced already earlier in the year. The bill moving forward without that bill and the Agriculture Committee moved forward without any Democratic support, citing President Trump's crypto interests as a major obstacle. This is something to keep an eye out for because the Ag Committee is mostly composed of Republicans. The Senate Banking Committee is comprised of a more equal mixture of the two. And so the bill that was put through, the version that was put through in the Senate Ag Committee, was much more friendly towards Republican wording. And so this could be an issue with reconciliation because there isn't enough of an overlap with Democrat demands and needs as there is with Republicans. And largely, Democrats just don't want the Trump family to be able to scam and grift off of us. Both Trump and his wife Melania launched meme coins just ahead of their inauguration. The Trump family has World Liberty Finance, which is rife with its own problems. And they've made $1.4 billion, according to Bloomberg, off of crypto during their presidency. Absolutely nuts. Nobody should be rooting for Trump to be making a bunch of money off of our backs. Anyways, after the bill's reconciled between Senate Ag and Senate Banking Committee, then it will be put to a full Senate vote where conflicts of interest or concerns are expected to be brought up. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, one of the bill's most prominent negotiators, warned that there will be no deal on the bill without an ethics provision on the Trump family's empire of making money off of crypto. So expect this to be a huge point of contention. I hope there aren't a lot of Republican cucks out there that are willing to die on this hill for Trump and his family to make a bunch of money. If a bill passes out of Senate with 60 votes or more, and remember there are 100 senators in the Senate, then it heads to the House for next steps. And if the House, which passed its version of this bill last year with bipartisan support, if the House passes this version of the bill, then it is sent to Trump's desk for signature. That being said, the markets are more broadly viewing the potential passing of the Clarity Act with positivity. Over the past 6 weeks, we've seen 6 consecutive weeks of inflows into crypto ETFs, which is great because we had outflows for most of Q4 of 2025. And then, and they were pretty gnarly too. Billions of dollars of outflows. But the Clarity Act and the stablecoin yield promise are reasons for hope, according to the market. But it's not just Bitcoin ETFs that are raking in the inflows. Ethereum ETFs snapped their losing streak. Solana funds added money. XRP products added money to their or saw inflows. So all of the crypto ETFs are doing okay. That being said, I did want to note this interesting point. Multi-asset products were the only material drag with $5.5 million in outflows. In this grand scheme of things, that's nothing. But it is mostly singular coin products that are leading the rallies in crypto-oriented ETFs. Moving on to some more crypto-native news. Ronin is going to be migrating its gaming-based sidechain to an Ethereum L2. Now, the difference between an L2 and a sidechain is a matter of state. The L2 bases its state security on the L1, which means that the L1 holds the final record of transactions and all of the activity that happened on the L2. The sidechain maintains its own state and security. It maintains its own record of historical transactions. L2s basically give need, show why we have to have an L1, which is Ethereum, and the L2 can just basically go and work on cheaper fees, faster transactions, providing the services that its clients need for it. Whereas the sidechain is kind of an all-in-one solution that an entity has to maintain themselves. The benefit with an L2 is that there's already an L1 team that is securing the blockchain network for you to have security over. So, and this is a big deal because Ronin is a gaming-focused blockchain developed by Sky Mavis, and they experienced one of the largest hacks ever. Let me pull this up real quick. In the history of blockchain and crypto. They are the current third largest hack ever, at $624 million on March 23rd, 2022. This was during hack season of the NFT bull cycle, where we can see just all these bridges that had nasty amounts of hacks. Ronin was a bridge that had 624 million. Poly Network, the ecosystem I work in, suffered a $611 million hack. BNB Bridge, that same year, 2022, suffered a $586 million hack. SBF, Maskoff, whatever, $477 million. Wormhole suffered a massive exploit of $326 million. That was a rough year for hacks, and they were all cross-chain bridges. So, Ronin is migrating to the OP stack, and the upgrade will be executed via a hard fork, which will move the network away from its independent sidechain model that's been operating since 2021 to an OP stack-based L2. The whole reason why Ronin launched its own EVM-compatible sidechain was because they wanted fast, low-fee transactions for in-game assets so that they could do play-to-earn mechanics. I'm old enough to remember when there was a whole kind of bullish momentum specifically around Axie Infinity and the games that that Sky Mavis was building, because that was part of the play-to-earn phenomena where folks were able to earn like $3 to $5 a day in farming Axie Infinity. And the news story back then was, particularly as I recall it, there was a section of on-chain users from the Philippines that were able to derive a income that was way better than anything they could earn locally simply through Axie Infinity. So for a while there, for a quarter or two, maybe even three, there was a wide swath of gamers in developing countries that were making better money than anywhere else they could make. And that was kind of like the killer use case for Axie Infinity was how these folk could farm and make good money. But then the hack happened and all that went away. The bridge exploit in March of 2022 drained $625 million in ETH and USDC via compromised validators. And of course, this attack was attributed to none other than North Korea. But that being said, 2022 was kind of like the last time that people were really geeked about gaming. And since then, Web3 gaming, and if you go back to was I hosting spaces back then? No. If you go back to the conversations we were having on the Smart Economy podcast back then, I remember specifically mentioning how difficult building a gaming solution is, because it's hard to build a good game when you're a AAA gaming studio already, as it is. You're already competing against the best of the best. To have blockchain natives fundraise and then have to go and compete to build a real world game against the gaming industry, it was just an uphill battle the entire time. And this is proven out 4 years later. An estimated 93% of Web3 gaming and GameFi projects that launched since 2020 are now effectively defunct. 93% of the games that have launched since 2020. Total capital deployed into the gaming sector since 2020 through early 2026 is estimated to be at around $12 to $15 billion. And the gaming tokens are down 95% from their 2022 highs And VC funding for blockchain gaming studios has collapsed by an estimated 93% over the same time period. Axie Infinity itself, which drove Ronin's initial growth and was the darling project back in the day, has seen its daily active users fall by more than 90% from its peak. So, gaming just was so hot in 2022. I remember thinking that I needed to have a gaming token portfolio, and I'm so glad I didn't build one because I'd be down 90%. I'm just down anyways, but I would have been down more in a gaming specific portfolio. So anyways, let's see how this L2 for Axie Infinity and for Ronin impacts the gaming tokenomic model, the gaming tokenomics, the games that are operating itself, and if there can be a revival, a resurgence in on-chain gaming with changes in the underlying tech stack. Speaking of underlying tech stack, Circle has raised $222 million to develop its L1 called ARC. It's an institutional layer 1 blockchain that will be competing out there with the likes of Canton and others. It was led by A16Z, including BlackRock, Apollo Funds, Intercontinental Exchange, SBI Group, Janus Henderson Investors, Standard Chartered Investors, General Catalyst, ARK Invest, Marshall Wace, IDG Capital, Han Ventures, and Bullish. Wow. Massive amount of investors. The ARK public blockchain L1 will be built for institutions and will use USDC as the native gas token. It will have sub-second finality, opt-in privacy, and EVM compatibility. If ARK gains traction, it could allow Circle to earn more of the infrastructure that USDC currently depends on, because USDC lives on public blockchains. It's mostly on public blockchains where all of the activity is, specifically on Ethereum and Solana. The token breakdown will be according 10 billion tokens, 60% of which will flow to participants building on, using, or contributing to ARK. Circle will hold 25%, enabling it to operate validator infrastructure and earn staking income. And then the remaining 15% will sit in long-term reserve. Circle announced ARK in August of last year when they announced plans for an EVM-compatible L1 chain to use USDC as the native gas token. As of February of this year, testnet has processed more than 166 million transactions at half-second finality and near-perfect uptime. ARK will also be a quantum-resistant blockchain at mainnet launch, introducing a post-quantum signature scheme for optional quantum-resistant wallets, which is being viewed now as a baseline requirement for all institutional adoption. Institutions care about quantum resistance. Yeah. If we're going to be onboarding billions and trillions of dollars onto our blockchain networks, and institutions are going to be managing these assets on behalf of their customers, clients, then they're going to want to make sure there aren't any fundamental flaws or existential threats to the underlying technology that they're using. So keep your ears to the ground and follow who is building for quantum resistance right now. This is only a theme that will continue to get stronger as the years go on. It's currently May of 2026. We should just be assuming that by 2029, 2030, quantum computing as well as AI will increase the amount of attack vectors that we have to defend ourselves against. I am exploring new ways to do these daily digital downloads, potentially doing deep dives for a daily episode, and quantum is going to be one of them, particularly how institutions are viewing quantum and what are the pitfalls that could happen for blockchain users such as you and myself when it comes to quantum. Is there a risk of forking the Bitcoin network when institutions have trillions of dollars in Bitcoin and Bitcoin core developers haven't yet made a post-quantum change, will TradFi say, we're going to migrate all of our Bitcoin to this Bitcoin-resistant network that we built and we approve of? And will they be able to win the network war by being able to migrate billions and billions and billions of dollars of assets to their Bitcoin? What will social consensus say then when Bitcoin natives are using one Bitcoin blockchain, but TradFi is using another, and the mighty weight of the economic power that TradFi can wield outweighs the cypherpunks? It'll be interesting to see. But that's a topic for another day. More recently, a Bitcoin whale address moved $41 million in Bitcoin after it was dormant for 12 years. The whale moved, where is it? Where's the number of Bitcoin? I don't want to see the price. Good God. 500 Bitcoin. Okay. Worth $40.6 million. After 12 years of inactivity, it's been sitting on that address since November 27th, 2013. Wow. While the reason behind the move is unclear, such transfers typically precede token sales for the owner to cash out profits. Look, I mean, if you've been holding onto Bitcoin that long, then yeah, good luck. You had great luck. You had diamond hands, and nobody should be faulting anybody for wanting to take profits. Also, we have to keep into mind that there might be a swath of people moving their Bitcoin from OG wallets that are at quantum risk. Why would anybody keep 500 Bitcoin on a wallet that has, or an address that has quantum risk? It just doesn't make any sense. So there's no reason to get scared. We also don't know what the motivations are for this person. Maybe they're just migrating to a new wallet to reduce their attack vector from a bad quantum actor. Michael Saylor bought 535 Bitcoin for $43 million after they took a pause last week. And they now hold 818,869 Bitcoin. Good God. The average price of their buys was 80,340. And their total average price is 75,540, meaning they hold around $61.9 billion worth of Bitcoin. And they are up on paper. Oh. Why can't I find it? They're up around $4.6 billion on paper and hold more than 3.9% of Bitcoin's 21 million total supply. Insanity. And then lastly, for our final piece of bullish news, Tom Lee thinks that crypto spring has commenced. Tom Lee now holds 5.2 million ETH, worth around $12.1 billion, after they bought another 26,659 ETH in the past week. Tom Lee says that they've decided to slow down their pace of weekly accumulation, which was over 100,000 ETH purchases per week, because they wanted to reach around 5% of the total ETH supply that they owned in late 2026. If they were continuing to buy 100,000 ETH every week, they would have reached that 5% by mid-July. So they're slowing down their purchasing pace. And we'll end on this note. Tom Lee said, quote, "Crypto spring has commenced, and we wanted to highlight the importance of owning ETH as a source of diversification and the likely drivers of the coming crypto bull cycle. Among the future drivers for Ethereum, the two primary are Wall Street's move to tokenization and agentic AI. If ETH closes above $2,100 at the end of May of 2026, this would be the third consecutive monthly gain. This has never been seen in a bear crypto market. Thus, a close above $2,100 would validate that crypto spring has arrived." End quote. Look, Tom Lee is super bullish, has been super bullish, was bullish during the whole ride down. So take with this with a grain of salt. But even though he's a hyper bull, I did just want to highlight that the sentiment does make sense. Closing 3 months in a row up doesn't happen in bear markets. It could be a signal that we are exiting out of the bear market that we've been in since since October 10th of 2025. I would love to stop bleeding, honestly. It'd be really nice to know that we're out. Anyways, folks, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our newsletter at thesmarteconomist.beehive.com. I'll just be honest, I haven't released a newsletter for the past 2 weeks because I was dealing with a dear friend who lost their life. And then, the past week and a half has been really rough, but we're getting back into the swing of things. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. The last week was rough, but it's nice to know that there are people who still check in to the Daily Digital Download and are still interested in hearing what we have to talk about. So, with all that said, thank you so much for tuning in to today's Daily Digital Download. We'll catch you tomorrow for another beautiful day in the blockchain and crypto space. But with all that said, thank you so much for your time today, your energy, your effort. I appreciate you. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful week. Let's go get it. Peace out.